Welcome to another edition of Regina District Industry Education Council Technology Spotlight. Today I have a very special guest. Taylor Fox is here from memoryKPR. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thanks for taking time out of your Saturday to come talk to me.
Yeah, you too. Saturday works well for me.
Hey, anytime I can talk to a founder of a startup, I'm always going to take the opportunity. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you get your start?
Which start? Computer science, technology? How far back?
Take me back to high school. What type of student was Taylor? Were you already into computers then, or what was high school like?
High school, I really loved like math and science. I don't think I took a single computer class. I don't even think I would have known if they were offered to me.
So if you're in grade 12 at this point and you have not taken a computer science class, don't worry,
don't
what
worry.
You're saying? Too cool. Yeah. And then, so you didn't take any computer science class. How about after, what did you do after high school?
None. Still didn't know about computer science at that point. I went into university at the U of S. Not really, I don't know, I wanted to do English at one point. I ended up settling on psychology though, and I did a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. There was a required computer science class though, because it was a Bachelor of Science.
Like you still feel like you don't want to talk about it.
And so I saved it till the very end of my degree. I was doing an honors thesis and I saved it until like my last year. And then I took this introductory computer science class and I loved it.
So you literally put this off the majority of your university career, and then all of a sudden you fell in love with after one class.
Fell in love with it after one class. I didn't even really like the class that much, to be honest. It was the problem solving and the actually just getting exposed to coding was just such a good fit for me.
Well, to a math science brain, I'm sure coding was, oh my God, this is what.
Light bulb. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Which then, made me more nervous because I was finished a degree, but had just been exposed to a subject matter and like computer science, and it was almost like nerve-wracking at that point to try and make the decision of like, okay, now what? Now what do I do with this new information?
For sure. Well, because you probably were thinking you had to go into the psychology world, when really, how did you?
Well, I loved that world too, but it just felt like a fit for me. So
what was the next step after that class?
Finished up my psychology degree. I had one summer launching into my computer science program. I did one summer of 5 summer classes in computer science.
Oh my dear Lord. We owe you that summer back. Oh
yeah.
My goodness. Wow, 5 classes. I did 2 and I swore I'd never do it again.
It was a lot.
This makes me feel really bad about my education. So you finished that, and then where did you go after that?
And I carried on, finished up that degree, and then started looking for jobs. I had already been working a little bit, and not in technology, but I had had jobs throughout university, and because I was in university then a little bit longer, I wasn't really looking to do any like work terms, so I didn't get exposed to any like internships or anything like that. But I had one summer student job, and then after my degree, I just started looking for jobs everywhere.
Cool.
So.
And then, where did you land after that?
My first career job after my degree was at IQmetrics in Regina.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I love IQmetrics.
Yeah, I was there for about 4 years.
Good for you. And then off to FCC?
Yeah, then off to FCC, where I've been for about a year and a half-ish.
Oh, I didn't know you were an IQer.
Yeah.
I literally just saw somebody that I've known for a long time. I think it's Beth Warner. I think she's leaving IQ, and that's why I'm like, people leave IQ? I didn't think that happened. That's incredible.
It's been pretty amazing to work there, and then also to work at FCC, and now also being involved in the startup. I feel like I've been able to be exposed to really some of
I'm getting more intimidated. I'm getting more intimidated here. But what a cool, like, I really want students, if they're at grade 11 or 12, don't know anything about computer science,
Yeah.
or have never taken a class, give it the time of day, or at least
Try it
try
out.
it out to see what
Yeah.
coding looks like and the
Yeah.
way it makes your brain think. Oh, too cool. So let's talk about memoryKPR.
Yeah.
How did you meet Jessica, by the way?
I met Jessica through the Cultivator, where
Oh,
we
no
are
way.
today. Yeah, I had known some people at the Cultivator and heard of it. It has an absolutely fantastic reputation for being like the place to be in tech in
Yeah.
Regina, particularly. So I don't know. I had always kind of like done like little things on the side, like side projecty type things.
So by this time you're now working in the computer science world, but you're actually doing other things on the side too, because
Yeah, just kind of experimenting and playing around. But I don't know, I don't pride myself on being like a big ideas person. So I really was looking for some type of partnership where I could find a co-founder. I didn't really want to like start anything by myself. I don't have really the background or the skills to do the like more businessy side.
it's very humble of you.
So I was able to meet Jessica, and we kind of clicked pretty instantly, and it was pretty exciting because I was really excited by her idea for memoryKPR, and kind of her description of it initially really just got my mind going, like, oh, this is really exciting. Like, where could this go next? Like, it was the idea that like kept coming back to me, and like.
And she has that contagious attitude, though, that she
Yes.
tells you something, and you're like, I can't get that out of my mind all day. I can almost put myself into your shoes in that moment of like, this was meant to be.
Yeah.
Like, and the other question is the relationship, how you two work together. Are you the same personality as her? Do you need to be the same personality as your business partner?
I don't think we need to be the same. I think it helps that we're not the same. We for sure have a lot of like values in common, and how I think we want to run our business, which is really important. And I think there's some overlap in personality, but I think we're definitely different people for sure too.
And complementary skill sets when
Absolutely.
one wants to do something or one can't do something, the other steps in.
Yeah, for sure.
So the idea came out of Cultivator. How long did it take after you met Jessica? How long did it take for you guys to say, we're gonna do this? And do you remember the moment when you said we're gonna come up with, or was there like an email sent? Was there a text message? Was it a Snapchat moment?
I think the first time we met, we had gone for coffee, and then I was mulling some things over, and I think I just called her. I don't remember the exact moment. I more remember the early stages of the struggles of like, okay, now that we're going to do this, how do we do it?
The starting the business wasn't the hard part. It was actually building it out.
Like actually building
Cool.
something out of nothing.
Yeah. So how did, and that's probably where you came into, was your role is to build this thing, because you're the, I guess you're the CTO?
I'm the CTO, yeah. So my role is to not necessarily build everything, particularly because I do have a day job as well. We've had some help from different contractors and different people, and we have some employees now too, that are software developers and are responsible for like the day-to-day actual building. And my role is more some guidance and some experience and expertise in how we're going to do this in a way where, you know, when we get a bunch of momentum and get really big, our product needs to be able to scale and be able to handle that and grow with our business. And also, I would say my role is to help Jessica transform those ideas into like concrete, like plans for how to put it into our product and how to build a specific feature or functionality, and kind of how to capture a dream and get it into like get it into an app, basically.
Oh, that's a really good way to put it. It's capturing that idea that's up here. And I love what you said, like building something from nothing.
Yes.
That's truly what you guys did. Was you took this abstract concept of keeping memories up here in the cloud somewhere, which is an overused term, but that's okay.
Yes.
For this, that's literally what you guys created, this company out of nothing. That's fascinating. So give me a struggle or a triumph from the early days. Was there a moment where you're like, oh, this is gonna work? Was there a bright light or a moment where you're like, oh my God, this is bigger than I thought?
I think I've always believed it's gonna work, and that's why I'm putting so much of like my time and like myself and my brain into it, because I really do believe it's going to work. But when we first started having enough of a product that it wasn't just like us using it and testing it, when we first started getting like people using it and getting feedback, even if it was like, you know, constructive feedback and like, oh, we would like this or that, or this is, it needs to be improved. It was really amazing because it wasn't just our team, it was other people using it and liking it enough to give us feedback about what they want to see in our product.
Oh, cool. So it's like a moment that someone cares enough about something that they're going to tell you how they want it changed.
Yeah.
There's a special moment there.
That it's not just our team that believes in it, but there's other people engaged too.
Oh, too cool. What problem are you guys solving?
I think we're solving problems in a space where you want to be able to share memories and, you know, whether it's stories or videos or audio clips, you want to be able to share it with people, but not everyone. You want to be able to share it with like a select group of people, with your friends or family, in a really safe and private way. You can expand it a little bit if you want to, but I think we're creating a place where you can share stuff easily with a really targeted audience.
When I started going through the site and I realized what you guys are doing, in my mind I'm like, oh, you're doing what social media can't or didn't do. It's not private. And the whole idea of everything that you share on the internet is going to be remembered forever, you guys are actually taking a niche out of that and being like, well, not this stuff. This stuff's special.
This stuff is special. This is for you and the people you care about and want to share it with. And we're going to do our best to follow all the, you know, privacy and security rules and best practices for building a product to make sure that it's private by design.
Yeah. No, I love the idea. I think it's great. We even challenged the teachers to get students to create their own memory right now. Back to your education though, do you find that your psychology and your education in that world has helped you in this? And I look at almost psychology as the backbone of how we operate as humans. And so understanding just human motivation too. Did that play into any of the ideation or into what you're building out now?
I think so, but perhaps not as much as you or even I would expect. When I initially went into computer science, especially coming from psychology, there's a pretty big interaction of those two fields in like human-computer interaction, and I really thought that that's what I would love. But then I like really enjoyed like the operating systems class. So I for sure think it's helped long term, but it hasn't really dictated as much what I'm interested in computer science.
Interesting.
I've definitely been open-minded and tried different things.
Like, but to that student that's trying to pick psychology or computer science, if you were to do it again, what would you do? I'm curious.
I mean,
just putting you on the spot.
I think it would be computer science. I'm really thankful for my experiences I had doing my psychology degree, and I think it prepared me to be able to get through my computer science degree and, you know, finish up school. And I was a better student because of my experience in psychology.
Well, that's a good point.
Just some more experience with university classes.
Because as you go in, it gets easier almost yearly, unless
Yeah.
you're doing a doctorate. I'm sure it gets harder, but yeah, I would agree. So yeah, back to the computer science world. Yeah, tell me a story about when I want to get into the psychology, what you were going through when you take that first class, and you, like, did you walk home one day and be like, I have to change my major? Like, I'm going in a different path completely now.
It almost made me feel like it was so fast, and it's not like it wasn't easy. It's not like I had an easy time
I honestly
with it,
think this
sure.
is one of the most hardest things that someone would do, is go for one thing and actually be okay with switching.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I don't know if a lot of people would have the courage to do that. Other parental pressure, life pressure, just in general, having to stick to your guns of, well, no, I already went through this.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated that happened.
It almost made me feel like sick when I realized how far I had gone in my university education, and then I had discovered such a perfect field for me to go into, and I couldn't not switch and do computer science. Like, I just
It's almost like a calling.
I knew that I had to do it.
Wow. That's really
But
cool.
initially the shock of being like, oh no, now what? Got to like reapply into school, try and figure out how to fit in all these classes and how it's all gonna work out. And
By the time you're done, you're finishing your degree though, did you realize how many jobs were in the market, or just understanding what computer science was? By that point,
yes.
were you looking in, because I guess maybe that's what I was critical about when I went to school. There wasn't people clamoring to hire you. There wasn't all these job postings. And I'm like, nowadays for like programming jobs right now, I bet I could go with one Google search, find a bunch of companies in my own local community that are hiring right now.
Absolutely, yeah. Big companies to small companies, there's so much opportunity for computer science right now, which is, I think, really exciting, because I think it's a really interesting and exciting field to be in, but it's pretty fantastic that an interesting, exciting field like that also happens to have a lot of employment opportunities.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you have moments when you're intimidated or you see code that you don't understand and you have to, it's almost like you're the student again?
All the time.
Okay, good, because I'm like, if not, I'd be like, oh, too much.
No, all the time. Learning and understanding new things is such a constant companion in a career in software development. Technologies are always changing, and there's new languages and frameworks and libraries to try and learn and understand. And
That's awesome.
I find it really exciting. I think you have to really be passionate enough into learning to be in this field, because there's so much that's changing all the time.
When you're talking, I'm like that video from, it's on why we should teach kids to code though, but it's Bill Gates explaining why. And his argument is it teaches you problem solving.
Yeah.
No matter what, you can take coding into any field and you can apply what you've learned. And I don't know, even agile management or things that are like not even coding, but the industry has adopted to run things more efficiently. That I love that we don't do coding, but I do love some of the things in the industry that the principles we can take out of it.
I think it's pretty cool that my job is to spend my day solving problems.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm like, on that note.
That's so cool.
Okay, I'm like, so on a given day when you're, we're gonna push out a whole new update for memoryKPR. What's that day look like? What are you working on?
Usually if we're at the point of pushing an update, we're pretty confident in what we're gonna send out to people.
So all the work would have been pre-testing and okay.
Yeah.
Explain, maybe try to explain that. Like are you typing numbers in like ones and zeros? Like what are you actually doing?
You're not typing ones and zeros. You might have some classes, if you do decide to pursue this in university, where you are learning about the ones and zeros, and then maybe programming a little bit like lower down. But now we're using pretty modern, sophisticated tools that are more understandable instructions to the computer for how to do something. So
cool. So you're not just making things up. There's somewhat of a framework you're building on?
Yeah, absolutely. There's frameworks and documentation, other examples. There's big communities online and in person, like here at the Cultivator, where you can ask people questions if you get stuck. There's definitely information out there for you to guide how you're going to solve your problem, but there's also the aspect where everyone's situation and code base and product is unique, so you really need to understand your product, and then you need to understand the guidance and the code and other documentation. If you're going to, stereotype copy paste some code from the internet into your project, you really need to know what it's going to do and how it's going to impact your product.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm curious on that. Has there been a moment where someone either took code or it was the wrong code? Like how, excuse my ignorance.
Yes.
Like, I like the widget on PayPal, and so I actually grabbed the code and but right there, it's no longer creative anymore. I'm just stealing something, or I guess I'm getting at, where do those ideas come from? Is it your team? Is it Is it you and Jessica saying, oh my God, we need to add this page on, and then the team builds it out?
It's definitely, I think, a collaboration within our company and our team. I definitely, as the CTO, like, I think one of my big responsibilities is to empower the other people on the team too, to bring forward their ideas for how we should solve problems so that everyone can have input and contribute to like how we're gonna solve a given problem, right?
Yeah.
So it's quite collaborative, and there's lots of opportunity to like review and get opinions on something, because sometimes there's value in trying something quickly and getting it out to your customers and seeing how they react to it.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And it might not be your ideal way to solve that problem or implement that feature, but if you can get it into the hands of your customers, you can get other feedback on what they think is most important too, because
For sure.
at the end of the day, we're building products for people to use, and like, it really doesn't matter what I think. If I disagree with what the majority of our customers think, like, I'm wrong.
You're not going to be in your position much longer either.
No.
I love that. It doesn't matter what I think, it matters what customers think.
Yeah, my job is to figure out how to get that done, not to impose my will and opinions for what our product should be.
I'm like, I want you to come talk to my team about this. I kid. But I like that. It's almost like fanatic discipline about listening to customers and gathering feedback and not trying to use your own opinion. I'm like, you sound like a founder, because I'm like, that's like a company person being like, I don't have opinions, it's my customers.
Yeah.
But if you can measure that at scale, why, that to me is what everyone should be doing, is
For sure.
understanding what the customer thinks.
And I think we're going to get there. Like, it's a journey. Like, we are still building out our customer base, and I think especially early, a lot of the times you're relying on your judgment, or particularly Jessica's judgment and ideas, to guide what the product is going to be. And we for sure still have input on cool features, and sometimes a customer asks for something, but it's not really the root of the issue. So part of my job too is really pushing us to explore, like, okay, why is a customer asking for this specific thing? Is it because they're missing the button here, or is it because we've put them into a system where actually they don't need that button at all, and we should, like, I don't know,
This
do
is where the
something else,
psychology
right?
comes from. Oh my God. I feel like you have the technological skill, but you also have like the empathy side of trying to understand what the human wants.
Yes.
Which is, I guess, the crossing of, I think I said this with Jessica too, though. That's the gold, is when you can cross the art and the science of, and I guess that was, I stole it from Steve Jobs, but he always said that if you could build something that was technically incredible, but also touched into emotion some way.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it's really important to, I think this is one of the biggest differences from when I was in school. There was some group work and collaboration on projects, but as a professional now, that's all it is. Like, everything you're doing is collaborative.
Yeah, like there's no assignment you hand in by yourself.
No, and there's like code reviews and opportunities to get feedback and learn from other more experienced developers, and there's so much opportunity for collaboration in software development.
Well, it makes me feel like I want to join your team.
Good.
It feels very open and very, I'm not going to get judged. Even if I'm going to make a mistake, at least I can shoot it to somebody first, get their opinion on it, and fix it before it actually goes live or to the next person that needs to review my code.
Absolutely. And I mean, sometimes I give feedback on code and I'm the one that's wrong, and like we encourage that, right? It's not about who's right, it's about what is going to be the best experience for customers and how we build this.
That's not, where did you learn that? Like, I don't, that is very, to me that's rare in business, but you have a very calming attitude about how you view that, and I'm like, do you not get emotional about that? How is that hard when you have your own opinion, but the data's lying to you, and you're sitting there being like, no, I'm a founder, I'm the CTO, I can change this. I feel like you're the type of person that actually doesn't. I'm like, I want your self-control.
I try to be the person that is like that. It's not always easy. It's like, I really think this button should be on the left and not the right. And they're like, no, it has to be the right. I'm like, okay, fine. But so hopefully in a more gracious way.
So like, there's not a lot of arguments about that stuff, because there wouldn't be.
No, there needs to be discussion and understanding of the data too. And it's not always it's not always cut and dry. Like
Yeah.
it's sometimes it's more complicated often than like, does the button go on the left or right? Like that's a pretty trivial example overall.
And in your mind, you're like, no, we could easily test that out.
Yes, for sure. And sometimes that's the right thing to do too, is to just try it. Even if we have convictions about certain ideas or features for how we want our product to be, the easiest way to tell if you're right or not usually is to just
Have you
let
done
people
that?
try
Have you
it.
tested something that you were like, this can't work, and it worked? Or the opposite, when you're like, oh my God, this is going to work awesome, and it just didn't?
I think, I'm not having specific examples come to mind at the moment, so you'll have to forgive that. But
I'm like, it would have been odd if you did.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that?
Yeah.
But I'm guessing you deal with the team. Like the team, it sounds like everything's feedback centric too. Like you're going back and forth a lot with the team.
Back and forth, and usually, like, I do review all the code that goes in and provide feedback as much as I can, and so there's opportunity to discuss. It's not like code reviews particularly aren't meant to be like, oh, you're wrong, this should have been done this way. Like on our team, we trust that we have smart people that know how to do their jobs, so it's an opportunity to be like, have you thought about this or that, or maybe this other tool is more suited for this job, but if that developer didn't know about the other tool, it's
like the opposite of being sent to the principal's office where you're getting in trouble.
Yeah.
It's actually, no, you're actually going to collaborate.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for collaboration, and with the goal of making our product better. We're all on the same team trying to reach the same goals, which I think helps.
Yeah. So where do you think it's going to be in 5 years? What's the future hold?
I don't know.
I feel like you're on the cusp of something big, and so I'm like, in 5 years' time, you guys could be in Silicon Valley by then. You could have your entire third floor of the cultivator as your guys's.
I don't know where we're gonna be. I like being here though. I like being in Saskatchewan. There's reasons I haven't decided to try and leave and go other places. I think it's really amazing to be able to stay here and stay in this community and work with people who are from here, who have also ended up here.
Yeah, I'm like, because we stole you from Saskatoon, didn't we?
Yes.
So you born and raised in Saskatoon?
Yeah, I was.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, so that means without the cultivator here, we probably wouldn't have you here. Like there would be no memoryKPR.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's cool. So what else about the province? You said you wouldn't look anywhere else. With your education and your experience, you could probably go to literally any major city and have a job pretty quickly. So why here?
I don't want to live in a major city.
You're like, I can do the work. I'm not driving an hour to work every day.
No, my husband and I live pretty close to downtown, so being able to like walk or bike places, but still, have a backyard, be able to get out of the city really easily is something that's pretty important to me. I'm not jumping to go to a big city.
You're not clamoring to head to the West Coast?
No.
How have you seen the business or even the startup climate change in Regina or even Saskatchewan in the last 5 to 10 years? Have you noticed any difference with what some of the, I would say more so what Saskatoon and Regina are really doing with encouraging the startup community? Yeah,
there's definitely like opportunities. I don't even know if I was in tech 10 years ago, though. So I don't really have much perspective on that.
That's a good answer.
Oh, plus I started a little bit later than a lot of people too. I didn't start in technology until I was, already done a full degree at university. So
that's too cool. So what gets you excited? But you've been smiling this most of the time, so I feel like it's not hard to make you excited. No. So, but what when you're thinking memoryKPR, did you have a day where you're like, oh, this is amazing, or what makes you excited about it?
I think one of the most recent days that made me excited, it was just like, it was normal. It was just a normal planning day. Like one of our developers, Matthew, and I, we were gonna work together to break down all the specific tasks we needed to implement a large set of functionality. which, I mean, sounds kind of boring. You're just like planning a bunch of work. But the process of that was us getting to work together and talk through every single detail about how we were going to build this. And it was like a Saturday morning, so it also might not initially seem exciting, but we just got to really focus in and like think about how we're gonna build our product.
But I'm thinking, again, put myself in his shoes. He gets to work with one of the founders on putting together all the pieces that are going to create this thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can feel that energy. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like you couldn't wait to get out of bed because you're about to create something that's never been done before. Yeah. And yes, maybe it seems to a lot of people a little nerdy. That's the coolest things in life are, though. Like, to me, so. I laugh at, I think nerds run the world. And if you look at the Fortune 500, who's running those companies? Come on. But I think, to me, I look at success as to be able to do something that someone else would look at and say, that's boring. But if you can have a lot of fun with it, life's going to be exciting, because you don't need, to go to Six Flags or Disney World to make yourself smile. Yeah. You could put together the perfect task list and sit back and be like, we did it.
It's going to be great.
Creating lists and to-do lists, I know there's some psychology to that too. That's beneficial to us. The other thing I think is sometimes, one thing Jessica said, if you listed off everything we needed to get done or everything we have to do, you're not going to do it. Like, that sucks. Like, it's hard to envision everything, but to take some functionality and list off the 10 things we need to get done for this thing, that's how to me big change happens. It's by actually having focused, detailed work in smaller areas that can permeate everywhere.
Yeah, and with that particular example too, we had a few ideas that actually came up during that process as well. So we went through, we made our list, we decided what was highest priority, and then we had a few kind of like bonus ideas that came out through our discussion. There ended up just getting like marked as like lower priority for that project, like not features we need to work on in order to give this to customer, but like a really cool nice to have that we can think about for later and think about how we would incorporate that and think about how people would respond to it, even, potentially talk to customers first. There's lots of ways you can get feedback from customers before you actually invest the time to build the thing. You can like mock stuff up or even just discuss with them.
I like you've mentioned it several times now, and so did Jessica, but I even told her I was going to send my mom the link. She's like, could I talk to her? I want to actually interview her. And I'm just like, good for her for asking, because that to me is dedication. And it's in her words, it was just understanding the next customer. And if you ever lose that, that's when I think you're in trouble. But I met her for like an hour on a morning, and at the end of the conversation, it's like, can I talk to your mom? And I'm like, we're going to be friends, Jessica. We're going to be friends. But you as well have talked about customer feedback today a couple times, and without that, we're nothing. Like you have to have that. And I think that can be scary. But again, as long as you're putting together things as a team, they're not giving feedback on you. It's the team's work, which I like that collaborative approach. That's going to be what I always steal something from these interviews and take back to our team. And I love what you said about there's nothing you do that's just by yourself. Like, that hits home just for myself, because I generally think that I'm the worst on my team at a lot of things. But I cheat and just work with others, so it makes me look better.
There you go.
But that's like the core of collaboration, is making yourself look better, because you're not as good without everybody else.
Yeah, and for sure with coding, there's times too where you do want to go off, work by yourself for a chunk of hours and like work through a problem and get really focused. And that's totally okay. There's tons of room for that as well. It's not like everything we do is chatting with each other all the time, but there's always points at which we collaborate and come together to work through things. And
for sure.
Yeah.
On that too, I forgot to ask, how did the pandemic change your work style? Was there a big moment where you couldn't go to the mainframe and do your coding?
Well, we're cloud native, so no, it's fine. Everything's in the cloud, and we use really modern tools. So we did more video conferences post pandemic.
Gotta love Zoom.
Yeah.
I'm being very, very sarcastic there. But the other side is when everyone's like, oh, this may not be the last pandemic, being all worried, with a technology background, that actually doesn't matter where you work, correct?
I don't think so. I've actually really enjoyed working from home too.
You said you got a COVID puppy.
We got our COVID dog. Yeah.
And so in your world, nothing really, like that didn't affect anything. The team, like productivity was probably the same, if not better, because they didn't have to drive to work.
I don't think it affected productivity. I think it for sure has impacts on teams. I'm really thankful that some of us were able to get to know each other pre-pandemic too. I do think it's probably tougher to come into a new team with it being virtual. So I think we try and be really deliberate about making sure our new people are onboarded well, and we're checking in with people to make sure that they're doing okay and not getting stuck on anything. So I think it's caused us to be a little bit more attentive to how we bring new people on.
Which is good.
Yeah, I don't think that would have been a bad thing though. Like, I think it's good that we're paying more attention to that and being deliberate about that. I think there's some good that's come from it too.
Like the smart startups will have learned and adapted quickly, and I think the comment was half an hour after we learned we couldn't work at the office, everyone just set up at home, and it was fine again.
Yeah, I did set up a bit of like an actual office space. I worked from my kitchen table for a few weeks, which was not good for me. That was too.
I'm a snacker, so for me that's too close to the fridge.
Too close, and there wasn't enough separation for me between working and being at home. So kind of segregating it off into its own little space was helpful for me as well. Even with memoryKPR, it is my passion project, evenings and weekends. I still do try and have like at least one day a weekend where I'm disconnected from work completely.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm like, that covers off the self-care question about, that's cool. So digital everything in your world, and you still take a day off a week.
Yeah. As
just a break?
Just a break.
I like that.
Walk the COVID puppy. we walk him other days too, but.
Oh, I bet. So anything in the future for memoryKPR? Is it just plugging away, add new customers, add new developers as we see fit?
I think so. I think we're probably at a really exciting point though. Like, as we gain a bit more momentum, I think we're just going to be able to build and deliver stuff even faster, and I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to talk to you guys in a few years, and I'll be like behind reporters being like, Taylor, remember me? Remember that video? Because you guys will be off at investor meetings and stuff. Because I don't know, it would be cool even if we followed along, even did something like an update next year of being like, you're pulling your hair out, Jeff, we have too many paid customers, this is going wrong. But you still have that smile on your face because you're loving it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Even like a year ago, I think we incorporated in January last year. So even the fact that we've been able to survive as a startup for a full year in a pandemic year.
And I met your employees, and they're like excited and they're awesome. Yeah. Generally, I mean, it's hard. I get it. Startups, it's not easy to have people, but welcoming faces and happy to see you. I was like, wow, I think you guys understand culture better than you understand yet. But I would encourage folks to reach out and ask about the inner workings of memoryKPR, because I think you guys have a really cool thing going, and I know that just doesn't come out of nowhere. And I know you're building something from scratch. I think you and Jessica have a really cool way of operating. But even having a class do a case study on memoryKPR, doing one, and then reporting back, I think would be super cool.
That'd be cool, and I'm sure we'd be really excited and interested to hear if they had feedback on our product too, right?
You're like, I gotta say that, but
try it out.
Like, give me feedback. If you had, one or two pieces of advice to, say, a grade 12 student, doesn't really know what they want to do, but it's doing really well on TikTok right now, what would you recommend to that person? I was just kidding about the TikTok thing.
I don't have TikTok. I don't really.
I downloaded it. I can't use it. What would you say to somebody that is on the fence about getting into the tech world or doesn't know what to do after grade 12?
I would say to try it out. Like, I was so afraid and delayed getting into the tech world, just like honestly out of fear. And then I tried it and loved it. So I would say just be willing to try it and overcome your fears. And even if it doesn't happen right away, there's still room for people with unusual paths into tech. So it's not too late either.
I feel like I'm going to use your story so much about, I'm like, I met someone that took a degree and pushed computer science off to the last class, but then actually fell in love with it because, and what did you say too? And you're like, I didn't even actually like the class. I just liked coding because it taught me problem solving in a really different way.
Yeah, the class was a pretty standard like introductory computer science class. It was fine. It was like an intro level class, but the actual experience of writing code was just like a revelation for me.
We built HTML websites in my CS100, and I used it for like years after, and I updated it with like party pictures, and then I would send it out to friends. Like this is a long time ago, but I get that excitement about doing something here and allowing it to pop up here, and then telling your friend like, hey, click that link, and that like to actually create something. That's what I think is one of the coolest things, which is maybe why, like, I don't know, I look back into the history of like creativity and thinking like the first artists, the first easel they got, and the first brush stroke. It was a moment of, oh, we can paint now. And so now I'm like, this is just another technological revolution. We just need to have more students looking at code, understanding what computers do.
Yeah, I would say too, it's so creative and collaborative, and I don't know if that always comes across initially when you think about computer science or software development, but in my experience it has been a really wonderful place to be as a creative person too, working with other people and creating things.
This has been great for myself because at times I think like the expert coder is just sitting in a room somewhere and everyone else is just kind of helping out. But the way you're explaining it is much more almost like a volleyball team where no one's the star. Everyone has to work together because the weakest link is going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Oh, too cool. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.